Here to announce another monumental step in our effort to fight to protect our kids. As you all know, our office has been very busy the last year and a half since I've been Attorney General, going after anybody that wants to subject our little ones to harm. A record number of child predators arrested, over 1,700, and we're going after businesses that deceive parents and expose our kids to danger. We've taken both criminal and civil action against the gaming app Roblox, which if you haven't heard me already, please know this is a preferred venue for predators to go after kids. We've taken action against many companies, and today time is up for TikTok. TikTok happens to be one of the most egregious social media applications when it comes to the dangers that are there at the fingertips of kids. Harmful sexual content, addictive features. They design the application with unlimited scrolling, push notifications, videos that just go nonstop, and it's designed to keep kids stuck on those screens for hours and hours a day. Our evidence suggests that so many kids are on TikTok for upwards of 6, 7, 8 or more hours a day. We are going to get our kids their lives back, and we're going to do that here in the state of Florida. Our legislature, in part with Representative Chip LaMarca, thank him for being here today, they led the way for the whole world in this area, and they passed over 2 years ago House Bill 3. This is a state-of-the-art piece of legislation that says kids under 16 are not permitted to be on social media applications. Here in Florida, we are big believers in parental rights, so our law is crafted where if you're between the ages of 14 and 16, you can be given access to social media once the companies have the tools available for your parents and your parents explicitly consent to you having access. I'm pleased to report that since we've started our legal pursuits, Meta has come into compliance with Instagram. They're making best efforts. It's not perfect yet, but we are working with them on a case-by-case basis to make sure that young people who are not mature enough for the harms of social media are not accessing these platforms. And we're glad to see hundreds of thousands of accounts being suspended for young kids that are not ready for the dangers that are out there. This spring, we gave all the companies a warning that you've got 60 days to get in compliance with our law. We were in litigation. A lot of people thought they had a First Amendment right to let our little kids on these platforms where they're subjected to harm. That is wrong. We were victorious in court, and our law is now the law of the land. So we gave everybody a warning, and if you know anything about me, I am true to my word. I will keep my promises. So time is up for TikTok and everybody else that falls under this law. We will be enforcing it. We will be holding them accountable for damages and injunctive relief to change their programming and stop hurting our kids. Our complaint, which was filed just minutes ago in the St. Lucie area, it will detail out the evidence that we have at our disposal that shows these harms. They advertise that they're safe for kids. But it doesn't take long, just a few searches. My team gave me some examples in here, but they're so grotesque and horrific, I'm not going to even read it with kids in the room. But just some basic searches will reveal pornography on the sites, sexual content. We have evidence of young people looking for ways to engage in self-harm, suffering from mental disorders due to the addictions to these platforms, and in the worst of cases, hurting themselves. So we're going to pick up the sword. We're going to fight back. If you are a company and you want to choose profit over public safety, if you want to choose profit over our children, we will not tolerate it. So TikTok is looking at potentially billions in damages. We look forward to seeing them in court. I hope that they will quickly resolve their issues and protect kids. But we're going to send a message out there. Leave our little ones alone. It's been exciting to see others in the world follow Florida's lead. Australia passed a similar law prohibiting access to kids on social media sites when they're not ready for the mature content. I just read this morning that the EU is looking to do the same thing, again, prevent kids under 16 from accessing these harmful platforms. In addition to the addiction and the depression, the physical harms, we've also seen so many cases where predators are using these platforms to talk to your kids. Today, predators, it's not just a white van driving in a neighborhood. That would almost be easier. We would see it. We got the best law enforcement in the country. They would get after it. Today, it's happening in the privacy in the dark corner of your child's bedroom. These predators are smart. They're patient. They use fake photographs. They talk in a dialect that sounds like a child. They develop relationships with your kids. They tap into the vulnerabilities and insecurities, and Lord knows in today's world, many kids have so many. And then they start to extort, ask for personal information, ask for vulgar content, ask for personal locations, and in the worst of cases, and sadly we have seen this in Florida since I've been in office, kidnappings and abuse. So parents and grandparents, if you're not up with the times on social media, this is the icon for TikTok. You've seen me hold up others before, but this is the one for today. If you want to scroll through the phone and you see this, be careful. If your kids are using this platform, they are at serious risk of harm. I'm a limited government guy. I don't believe government should get in the way of businesses unless there is an emergency, unless there is a danger. And unfortunately, with social media, we have seen that. I think big tech has pretty much gotten a hall pass the last decade plus when it comes to the dangers that our kids have experienced. But we're not going to tolerate that anymore here in Florida. I look forward to working with my colleague, attorneys general across the country, to make them pay for what they've done and to seek immediate changes so that our little ones are not exposed to harm. So I want to turn it over and let some of my friends here say a few words. I'm honored to be joined by Representative LaMarca, as well as Nicole Steffer here, who's a mom who's willing to share a few words, and I'm grateful to have them. So I will turn it over. Representative, come on up.
Good morning, and thank you, Attorney General. We're lucky in the state of Florida to have somebody who's looking out, not just for every citizen in the state of Florida, but our children and our kids, and Attorney General Uthmeier. There was a time when I was your age, believe it or not, we didn't have cell phones, we didn't have iPads. We just went out and played outside, drank out of the water hose, that kind of stuff. But there was a lot of really good technology out there that will help young people become smarter and do better things in life. But there's also protections. And when we say that we're the free state of Florida, we are, but we're also going to protect our children. And that's not just, as the Attorney General said, that's not just from the obvious predatory things like people that might be in actual real time and things like that, but on social media and on apps on your phone. And it's getting so hard these days to really tell what's real and what's not with AI and all these other things. And we want to make sure, when he said that we're looking to protect our children, that bill was passed in 2024. So we're coming up on the third year that should be in effect, and people are still not taking us seriously. So that's why we're here today. Obviously, most of the major players in this space have complied. And we want to make sure that we're looking out for everyone but our kids first. And that's why I'm so proud to be here and stand next to him, and hope to have him leading our state for many years. But just want to thank you all for being here, and love your patriotic colors. And with that, I'll turn it back over to the Attorney General, and I know he has a great speaker for us.
Thank you, Representative. I should say, talking to the investigators that worked on this, I didn't realize, and I'm not a big social media guy, but I didn't realize that there is just blatant pornography on these platforms. TikTok, Twitter, you name it, it's right there. I know we've done a lot of good work to protect children from those harms, but to the extent these platforms are not falling under that law, we definitely are going to go back this year and strengthen that legislation if we need to protect in some of these other areas that are not, per se sites focused on that, but it's still very, very prevalent. So with that, I will, is it Stepler? Okay, all right. My last name's been butchered more times than I can count. So Nicole, thank you for being here. I appreciate it.
Good morning. I am just a mom, but I thought it was important to be here today to give voice to all the parents who, like me, are deeply concerned about the impact that social media has had on our children. First, I'd like to thank Attorney General Uthmeier, I think I got that right, for his leadership in protecting our children from online predators and for standing with parents and addressing the dangers that social media poses today. By bringing attention to these issues and partnering with families, the state of Florida is helping create a safer future for our children. I am a mother to 4 young children. My oldest is 11 years old. And she's at an age where social media is becoming increasingly appealing. Like many parents, I am beginning to face the difficult conversations about wanting to fit in, wanting to be included, and not wanting to be left out. But as a mom, I understand that I am the first line of defense for my children. Today, I believe one of the greatest challenges that we face is social media. Like many parents, I've had to say no to social media. But the challenge is not saying no to social media, it's what comes after. Even after we say no, we are competing with technology that is constantly present in our children's lives. Our children see it through their peers, through advertisements, through videos, and through the culture around them. Social media has an extraordinary ability to insert itself into our everyday life. Children naturally want to belong, and they have an incredible ability to not give up when they want something. The reality is that many young people are also far more technologically savvy than we often realize, and can find ways to bypass parental supervision and parental guidance if they're determined to do so. But this is also why parents should not have to fight this battle alone. We have spent years teaching our children how to be safe. We lock our doors at night. We tell them not to speak to strangers. We take the time to know who their friends are, who their friends' parents are. We guide them in those friendships. And we do all of this because we understand that not everyone who enters our children's lives have good intentions. And yet social media can undo many of those protections with the click of a button. We would never invite strangers into our living room to have unrestricted access to our children. Social media can make that possible without us even realizing it. The reality is that social media exposes children to risk they're often not emotionally prepared to handle. These include cyberbullying, inappropriate content, online predators, and unrealistic expectations. Technology companies have the resources and the expertise to make these platforms safer for our children and to stand with those parents who have already made the difficult choice to say no. If companies truly value the safety of our children, they should be active partners in protecting them, not placing the entire burden on families. Every parent wants their child to feel included, connected, and accepted. But we want for them to also be safe. Sometimes that means making difficult decisions and standing firm, even when it's unpopular. Protecting our children is a shared responsibility. Parents must continue to guide and supervise, but technology companies must also step up and help create a safer digital world for the next generation. Thank you.
Thank you, Nicole. You guys have a pretty cool mom. I think you know that already. No, we need parents to be the first line of defense. That's the most important. But a lot of parents are not aware of these dangers, and then you have platforms like TikTok literally advertising that it's safe for minors, where we know without question it is not. Somebody asked me this morning on the way in, you like to fight with everybody, and we are fighting with a lot of people, that is true. I think they're the right fights. But I would rather work things out easily. As Nicole said, we want good partners. We want people that are all in it for the shared same goal, and we have had some productive discussions with the platforms on this. I hope those will continue, but we're not going to just sit around forever and let kids continue to suffer. The law was passed by Representative and others 2.5 years ago. We won in court last winter. This spring, I said, guys, you got 60 days. You can do it. I know you can. You're the best data programmers and analysts in the world. You know how to do it. But with them, it is just they make so much money. And so we're here to tell them today, open up your checkbook. Let's go. Let's address the harms that have taken place. Let's fix the app. Technology is supposed to be here to help and support mankind, not lead to its demise. So to anybody else out there that we have not yet sued, I know Snapchat, we have a legal action going against them. That's a preferred outlet for predators because a lot of the pictures and messages disappear. I don't use the app personally, but I've seen our investigators working undercover on it, and thankfully our technology is improving where we can still go get bad guys that think they're going to evade justice using this platform, going after our little ones. I got news for you, not anymore. If you think you're going to do that, you're not going to get away with it. Roblox is a real problem. Parents at home, YouTube and others, you gotta wake up. This is real, and you can save lives. So thank you. We'll have more to come soon, and I think we got time for a few questions if anybody has any. Yes, ma'am.
Attorney General, tell me, what's the end goal here? I mean, is this a criminal complaint where there could be arrests, or there could be fines? What are we talking about here as far as?
This is a civil lawsuit. The lawsuit is focused on two things: deceiving parents. Under Florida law, I have tools to protect our consumers from deceptive advertising, deceptive practices that deceive parents from the real harms that are out there for kids. There is a lot of danger there. You can flip through the complaint. You can see some of the examples. I'm not going to read this morning, with the crowd in this room. But there's a lot of sexual, vulgar content there. Factoring that in with the addictive features that keep kids on for hours and hours and hours, we're seeing a lot of evidence of eating disorders, bulimia, self-harm, not to mention the exposure to predators that have found this as, the new neighborhood to go get little ones.
And why St. Lucie County? Is that where the victims are located?
Yeah, the reality here is, you've got victims everywhere. We've got victims absolutely everywhere, but there's definitely some very clear cases in that part of the state that, are central to the complaint. But nothing criminal at this point. However, where we see evidence of companies, we launched a criminal investigation into ChatGPT because we had advice where the platform literally advised somebody on how to commit murder. And our prosecutors came to me and said, look, if that was a human being on the other end of that screen, on the other side of that conversation, we would be arresting them today and charging them as an accomplice to murder. So that begs a bigger question. It's kind of like the old Frankenstein novel. If you create a monster and it hurts people, are you not responsible? So if there's evidence that senior officials designed this application knowing that these types of criminal activities would take place and nevertheless let it happen, there could be liability there. But today's complaint is civil. Yes, sir, in the back.
You mentioned a penalty of opening up their checkbooks. Is it a feasible end result that they could increase content moderation in a way that would satisfy you in this? And also, you mentioned a couple other social media companies, but are there plans to move forward with streaming sites like Kick and Rumble and even X that have the same content that you're...
Yeah, mark my words, we're going to go after anybody that's going to hurt our kids. Anybody and everybody. We'll go after everybody that subjects our kids to injury. And I think by now I've proven I deliver on what I commit to. When it comes to finding a settlement or reaching an end goal, programmatic changes are number one. I do see states across the country, they get a check from somebody and then data continues to be stolen or the behavior continues. Florida, we definitely want to hold people accountable. And I think when these companies make billions and billions and billions of dollars, making them open their checkbook is not only good to help our victims, to pay for the damages that have taken place, but it also changes behavior. So I do think there needs to be a very large monetary component here as well as the programmatic change. And by the way, the programmatic change, that is the law of the state. That's not, I like the law, but that's not my discretion. That is the law that they must abide by.
Is major social media companies that have already, complied completely with the law in a way that you're satisfied, or is there still? You mentioned it's not perfect, but I mean, how bad is it amongst?
Yeah, so Meta has suspended. At this point, I don't have a set number, but hundreds of thousands of accounts of kids. They are compliant with our law. Somebody might fall through the cracks. They use their own internal technologies to identify, users that are under the age threshold where they're not permitted on the site. Somebody could sneak through here or there, and if that happens, there are ways that we can detect that and get those accounts removed. But at this point, I am satisfied that they are engaged in best efforts to comply, and I appreciate any company that's going to give it a good faith effort. I believe at this point, that's my understanding, that they're the only one. Anybody else?
Attorney General, do you have any comment on Republican governor candidate calling Byron Donalds a slave at a campaign event over this past weekend?
I think somebody that's going to call a black candidate a slave clearly has some intentionality there. I think it's gross. I don't think there's any room for that in Republican politics. It's certainly not my brand of politics. I'm not going to give somebody like that any real attention because it's not worth it. It's not worth it to give them a platform, and I think the congressman's probably doing the same thing. Anybody else? All right. Thank you. Have a good one.